Steph Curry is sick. Now, the last video I made was what's wrong with Steph Curry? And a lot of you pushed back like, so what? He had two bad games on the road. But you have to understand, I covered the team in the micro. When you cover the team game to game, day to day, some of the stuff sticks out. First off, you've got to talk about what's happening right now. It can't always be big picture. And it wasn't that Steph didn't shoot well. It was how it looked. Contextually, something was amiss, right? It wasn't just like, oh, Steph's missing shots. It was like he had watery eyes. And when in hindsight, you can kind of see that what was happening. But it was his body language and it was how it looked that was disturbing 5-6 games into the season, right? And so now it comes out that he's been sick and he pushes through last night against the Suns. And still, that's part of the issue is, right? Like even an unhealthy Steph pushing through still gives you 25, 30 points, even if it's not efficient. And I just hope that it's a lesson learned to Steph and the organization that you can't always push through, especially at this age and phase in his career. And I think part of the load management issue is Steph always wants to play. And as generous as he is with his power over this organization, right? He could make power plays all over the place if he wanted to, but that's not who Steph is. And so I think in turn, in part of who he is, they're like, okay, Steph, you want to play. Like, you make the call, Steph. And I think this was a lesson of sometimes Steve has to step in and say, no, we're shutting you down tonight. Look, man, we all have bad habits. Most of us don't want to acknowledge or discuss them. One that's not being talked enough about is vaping, right? And that's why I want to tell you about today's product, Fume. This is a flavored air device designed to help people move away from smoking and vaping. There's no nicotine, no vapor, just flavor. And when you are trying to kick that habit, to go cold turkey, you're setting yourself up for failure. Fume can help you set yourself up for success, whether it's you yourself trying to kick the habit or a loved one that you want to be able to do so. Now, they sent me a journey pack where you get a ton of flavors. It's a kit that's going to get you all ready to go. And then, of course, the most important part is the device itself, which has a really nice weighted balance to it. You got a fidgeter on the end, so it's something you can hold in your hand. You can use a topper rubber tip. And so it's really a no-brainer, again, for yourself or your loved ones. Over 700,000 people will have already added Fume to their daily routine. And I totally get why. It's simple, it's satisfying, and it comes with none of the downsides of smoking or vaping. So if you've been thinking about changing your habits, this is the perfect first step. Go to tryfume.com/athleticalchemy or scan the QR code on the screen and grab yours today. I don't want to hear about the NBA rules and stuff. You can't question Steph load managing. Sorry, Kawhi is a different story, right? But Steph, no. If he ain't right, like protect the golden goose. And so that was, it's a relief because you had me speculating like, what is it? All sorts of things, right? And I think a lot of us were. And so it's a relief to find out, honestly, that he, has like the flu or something. And everything adds up, right? And you wish he wouldn't have had to play in that fourth quarter last night. And frankly, I think we could have pulled through without him. But given the fact that we had blown those 2 games, you couldn't take any risks. Let's move on to Draymond. Draymond played harder last night. He did. He definitely was more alert and competitive last night, but he can't elevate. He can't run the floor. Got his back blown out by some young bouncy cat at the end of the game. No, Ryan Dunn. I like Ryan Dunn, but that was a bad fall at the end of the game. And so I said it in today's breakdown. Link will be in the description. Like he may want to, stop talking so much on the podcast while he's so vulnerable out there right now. He's just not in shape. I don't think this is like who Draymond is now. Again, I've said it a bunch of times. I think he's just out of shape and overweight. And in his mind and his competitiveness lets him get through to an extent, right? Jimmy, lower back soreness was questionable for this one. He made an appearance, right? And then he didn't play the second half. And I think in part because we were up 20. Moses was rolling. We were shooting so well. It was like, all right, you rest. And that Jimmy, listen, his playing style, how many bumps and falls to the ground does he take a game trying to draw that whistle at the rim? I almost wonder if it would benefit, as I talk about Draymond dropping weight and getting in shape, it would benefit Jimmy to add a little bit of weight, a little bit of cushioning for the way he plays. He doesn't play twitchy per se. I know he likes to jump, but these guys have to be monitored and load managed. And we knew this going in. And I had brought this up in a Patreon podcast yesterday. When you look at the other teams around the league with their stars, they load manage different. The Warriors seem to have a different philosophy where it's much more of a minute thing. Oh, we want to keep him at 28 minutes, him at 20 minutes, and then you can play every game. Where these other teams, they just give their players whole games off. And again, I think with Steph, part of it is he just doesn't want to do that. But they have to protect Steph from Steph at times. And I hope that that's the lesson learned. And so we move into this game against Sacramento with the young guns. I'm excited. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in this Phoenix matchup. And so much of the grind of an 82-game season is if you're not following teams game to game, you don't understand the full context of the situation going into the certain game. And this Suns roster depleted, smoked the Spurs on Sunday night, because the Spurs were probably feeling themselves and didn't get up for the game, right? And so on any given night in the NBA, there's enough talent. But they come into this game and understand, if you weren't paying attention to what happened to the Warriors and you're a Suns fan, it's like, hey, this is a all hands on deck, like we got to get this game for the Warriors. And that's how they came out and played. It wasn't just the hot shooting. It was an alertness and a healthy respect for a Suns team that's not nearly as talented as we've seen in the past, but they're probably, they're twice as tough. They play hard. I think they've done a good job. Jordan Ott, it seems like a good young coach. Is he going to get the runway to develop a team here in Phoenix? I think it's a pretty good situation. There's not a lot of expectations in Phoenix. You've got a franchise core player who's a pro's pro, and then you draft Ryan Dunn. You bring in Dylan Brooks. Livers, what's the other rookie off the bench? They've got a Royce O'Neal. There's a toughness to this team, a physicality that we haven't seen in the past. And then there's their centers. I haven't seen a lot of Mark Williams because he's not available a lot. Most of us know him from this Bach trade last year. He's given DeAndre Ayton vibes, right? He's, unfortunately, Suns fans, he's given DeAndre Ayton vibes. The competitive spirit's just not there. The physicality is just not there. I know he had like 16 and 16 last night. Quentin Post outplayed him. Quentin Post is twice the competitor he is, and you see his value as a stretch big man, but I've been more impressed defensively with him being in the right spots, protecting the rim, contesting out to the three-point line. Trace Jackson gave us good minutes in his verticality and bouncing, but let's go back to QP. He hit those 3 early threes. 2 of them came off Kuminga pick and rolls. And we know Steph garners the most attention. Jimmy garners a lot of attention. But when you're talking in a high screen, turning the corner downhill, Kuminga puts more pressure on you than anyone else on the Warriors. And when you throw the QP pick and pop into that mix, he's going to get all you can eat. And you know he's a shooter, right? Like it's not like he'll take it. He wants it. Said it a bunch of times. So he's knocking him down. And then Moses comes in and he's shooting it at a level 10 of confidence. And we've talked so much in the past about the dip in the shot, and he needs to be able to shoot it quicker. You've heard Steve Kerr talk about like Moses has got to be able to get the 3 off quicker. I don't necessarily think he's changed his mechanic. I think it's his confidence. That beat, that split second for a guy when they say, should I shoot it or should I not? It's not there for Moses right now. He's just letting it go. And so it's a thing of beauty right now. And it looks, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what he's shooting. He's got to be shooting super high, but he looks like a knockdown shooter. It looks like that's what he can be if he can sustain this, the Clay mentality. I don't want to say that. You don't want to just chuck away, but like before it hits my fingertips, I already know I'm letting this go because that's my role and that's what I'm going to do. And then defensively, Look, you can't say he put the clamps on Book. He damn near, did he 40 ball us? He would have given us 50 if it weren't for Moses, right? Book is fully capable. What does he have, a 70-point game? But he made things difficult for Devin Booker, not letting him catch it where he wanted to, and he continues to improve defensively. And then Pods quietly has gotten out of that early slump. And I think it hasn't gotten as much attention because we lost on those 2 road games. So it's like, but Pods is I think getting much more comfortable offensively as far as showing shot, using his shot and the passing as his first threats, not handle, right? And so, yeah, I'm excited for this matchup tonight. And I think they're fully capable of competing. If we haven't learned anything from this last week of basketball, don't look at the starting lineups. Each game is its own, especially contextually, what's going on with a certain team in that game. But when you talk about the keys of this matchup tonight against Sacramento, look, you're going to have to get stops at some point. I'm not going to go full KD here and just say defense doesn't matter. But I don't think you're going to be able to slow down the Kings enough to make it a grind defensive game. I think that they're going to have to execute offensively, and the hot shooting is going to have to continue. You can't over foul, right? You can't let DeMar and LaVine live at the foul line. And then you've got to go at them, I think, because essentially we're not playing the Steph system tonight with Draymond out there and all that. They need to make LaVine and DeMar defend. Don't allow them to be one-way players. This is Kuminga's time to shine, right? Let's go to work. Go to work, get those guys in foul trouble, make them have to defend. And I don't see why we can't be competitive. And we're going to have to steal some of these games. And they're going to have to load manage the big 3, not just with minutes, but whole nights off. That's the lesson learned, I think, in this last 48 hours. I would like to see Will Richard get his opportunity on LaVine and Malik Monk before GP2. I know he went down to the G League. I'm assuming he's going to be back up for this one, right? And then Guy Santos didn't play much last night. Look, Guy, he has such happy feet defensively. Foul trouble is always going to be an issue for Guy because he plays so hard and he's kind of chaotic. But what I don't think people realize enough is he shoots the 3 better than people think. When he let you watch him seam up and when he gets a clean look, and I say all that to say is I'd like to see Guy get an extended role tonight and maybe give us a double-double. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this, and I'm honestly relieved to find out that Steph's sick. I don't want to say just sick, but who knows? We were all thinking like something's up. Who knows what's going on? Let those guys get 2 days off before this Denver, I think it's a cup game, and the Sacramento matchup, regardless of who's in the starting lineup, it's the interstate rivalry. It's going to be intense, and it's going to be close. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.